Hey there, this is Emily and Bernie from Third Place Works, where we help co-working professionals with tailored cohorts and one-on-one consulting. Our proven frameworks can help you get focused, stay accountable, and see real results. Want to learn more? Check out the show notes for all the details on how to join us and take your co-working business to the next level.
Hello, folks. It's today's Co-working Values podcast, and all the way from, is it sunny Berlin? Are you in Berlin or are you just outside Berlin?
Oh my, I am outside of Berlin.
And Julianne, what are you known for? And what would you like to be known for?
Oh my God.
I know.
I guess it depends who you ask, if I'm honest. But what am I known for? I am co-founder of Coconat, which is a workation retreat and co-working space and co-living project in the countryside, 1 hour outside of Berlin. And I'm also a project manager of, as far as I know, the first official refugee housing with a co-working space in the countryside as well, which is called Exile Media Hub Brandenburg. So I'm running 2 projects right now.
How did you get into that official refugee housing with co-working?
That is a very long story, but the short
You've got
version is
2 minutes.
we've been running Coconut in this area. So we're in a rural area. Coconut is a social business, so we are also doing a lot of creative rural development projects. So we're very connected with the public sector, and we have a very, very active mayor in the region who was working very hard to get a special pilot project running for refugees. So the house that I am managing was developed for journalists in exile, but now we've expanded it to media professionals in exile. And because Coconut is, let's say, a project that has a good reputation in the region, and we're very associated with work and productivity and creativity, we were tapped to manage this project, and I was very happy to take it on.
That's really exciting. I can't believe I didn't know that. That's quite, I sort of, thought I knew what you did. How, because it seems like everyone's got a rural vocation to treat nowadays, but like, when did you start Coconut?
So we started the idea in like 12 years ago, and for sure there was no place like ours 12 years ago at all. So it was a very new idea. And then we did a proof of concept in 2015, and we opened our permanent location in 2017.
Because it feels like you and Banksco are like in my little world, you're like the OGs of workation, nomady, doing something a little bit different with co-working, and it seems it's part of the legend now. Um, why did you start that? Did you just want to get out of town, or did someone leave you a farm in their inheritance or something? Like, where were you when you went, I want to start a co-working space with accommodation in the middle of nowhere?
We were actually none of those things, which I think actually we've spoken to a lot of people with that kind of a motivation. The motivation came from my partner and I thinking that it would be like fun to do a startup or so we were like my partner was like, oh, I think I would like to create a startup, and I was like, oh my gosh, me too. And so we would be sitting in our kitchen and thinking about ideas. We wanted to create something that didn't exist before, and we went through a few ideas, and then at some point he came home and he had just spoken to our friend, and our friend was working 18-hour days and had expressed, because he had deadlines, he was a film editor, and he expressed that he wished he could just be working in the countryside so he could at least like partially enjoy the summer. And we were like, oh, that's a really good idea. Then we realized that we were, surrounded by people in the city who were constantly having this wish of being able to be out in the countryside more. And from our experience, it wasn't so easy to go to the countryside and just like be online. So we were like, yeah, let's do this. Let's make this place possible. I was already working in co-working, so I knew that there was a lot of people working with their laptops, and the development of remote work was just like taking off. Digital nomads were just starting to take over the world. And no, not exactly like that, but digital nomadism was a thing. And yeah, that's where the idea came from. And we were like, it doesn't exist as far as we know. So we started to build it.
Looking back at that time now, it's so interesting. And about 2014, there's someone called, I'll put a link in the show notes to Lisette Sutherland, who is an American living in the Netherlands, and she was teaching remote work, and I went to a workshop of hers in London like 10 years ago. And I wouldn't walk around going, I'm a digital nomad, but I was trying to be location independent. After accidentally marrying an Argentine and wanted to travel more. And there's so many things I just didn't know. And when you said to people, even 10 years ago, when you said to people, I can work anyway, I can work anywhere, they give you like a weird look. And now, like, it's just the thing. COVID, did COVID help Coconut? Did you get more people coming because the kind of the freedom to work everywhere was basically more in the public consciousness?
Like, let's say yes and no. I mean, I think Corona had a good effect in that way. Yes, I think there was already an upward trend, and then well, Corona was wild days, right? So like we weren't able to be open in the same way. Well, first of all, we had to close for 2 months, like everybody else in the whole world. So that happened, and then when we could open only because we were work related, which was really interesting. So other hotels weren't allowed to open in Germany, but we were. And then at that time, we were the people who came to us. It was the first time that in their lives that they could work remote, or that they were allowed to. So that was really interesting, like to talk to these people. And then over time, I mean, as you know, the shift, there's like not everybody shifted back, or some people have been forced to go all the way back to the office. And there's like all these different rules and experiments. And so I would say like yes and no in a way. I don't know how to else to say it. Like it didn't quite stay the way I thought that it might. I thought it might really like be like the beginning of the real remote work revolution, that everybody might really be able to do that, or that the concept of workation would really be brought into companies because they could see the benefit. But it's still like a lot of pushing and um, showing research to companies. And yeah, it's interesting. It
The
wasn't
gold rush.
yeah, it wasn't quite the gold rush that we had expected. I would say like there was a upward trend, a big bump up, and then it's still like the same, maybe, yeah, upward trend that we were seeing before. So it's not going away at all, but wasn't quite the super push we thought it would be.
So I need to find a way to segue to the German Coworking Festival,
Yes.
because in what happened to me in COVID was people who, like, no one in my family knows what I do. And then people would come around and say, oh yeah, that co-working thing you're talking about, I heard about this. And did it seemed like this, but they'd always say, big companies. And I'd be like, no, it's not like that. And that, how did the public awareness of co-working in Germany come about during COVID?
Well, that's interesting. I mean, there was a lot of stories. People would definitely like, we had a lot of press in that time because we were open and we were seen as like a positive story. So I think that a lot of people like definitely read about Coconut anyway. But what we offer is also kind of an escape. So we were something a little bit special. We were in the countryside and also offered community to people when they were really isolated in the cities. So it was a really interesting time. Um, and then the festival, I mean, the festival actually, I think we took a break from in the Corona time because it was like so complicated to organize any kind of events. And we were all like, yeah, so
I know what you
super
mean.
busy with trying to figure out everything in the world. But let's say like a year after we kind of took a break, it was time to get started again. And I've been running this thing for quite a few years with Tilo from Cobot, and so we started a group in Berlin called the Berlin Coworking, and we would just meet up with other independently run spaces. The whole Berlin meetup started because we had the bigger companies coming in and doing these pretty aggressive marketing things to the customers of smaller co-working spaces. And so the idea was that we were getting together to talk about well, how to handle that, how to handle this aggressive marketing and
So it's
sort of,
like the resistance.
yeah, a little bit. And then that was like the first Berlin Co-working Festival kind of came out of that, which I was a part of. I was like a random non-Berlin space, but it was okay, like pretty close. And yeah, a couple years ago, we expanded to include the whole state of Brandenburg, where I am. So Berlin is like an island city in the middle of Brandenburg state. So we expanded the concept to Brandenburg. And then there was another state running another co-working festival. And we're all friends, of course, because that's how co-working is. And this year, or after last year, it was clear that there was a few other states that wanted to also do festivals, and I was like, well, shouldn't we all just do it at the same time together? And then we started to pitch the idea of a German-wide event, and we said, forget just 3 or 4 states, let's do the whole country. And so that's that's what we went for this year.
It's great. So with one of the we sorry, forgot my words there. So European Co-working Day is coming up in May 2025, and in London there's around 1,300 co-working spaces according to data, or places that self-identify, and some of those will be bigger companies. And I've just seen, I've been paying attention to co-working since 2010 in London. And there was a point of about 5 years where I just knew every co-working space as a result of things like Social Media Week we were talking about earlier on. And then it just exploded about 2015. And so many spaces are what I call owner managed, or in the UK, there's a classification, the government classifies businesses of certain sizes, and there's micro and small, and so many co-working spaces are micro businesses, and they have less than 10 employees and they turn over less than 2 million a year. And then the next jump up is more money and more people. But that group of people, class of businesses, make up something like 95% of the UK economy. It's really, really high. Everyone thinks it's big companies that contribute everything, but it's actually those people employ the most people and generate most of the revenue. And it feels like when it comes to people talking about co-working, the bigger companies that have bigger marketing budgets and can have bigger buildings and bigger everything seem to get the limelight. And I feel people get left behind a little bit, and that seems what the German Co-working Festival is looking to overcome.
That is exactly right. I think I saw it a little bit, let's say because we were just talking about Corona too, when you saw the measures to support businesses after Corona, there, sometimes it was also a little bit uneven, but there was at least some push to protect the small businesses, because it became super clear that small businesses are so important. Small businesses, if they're supported, and just you don't need to give so much to support small business, because they don't need as much. And if you support small business, they can actually entirely hold an ecosystem. It's amazing. And co-working spaces are usually small businesses, the ones that, yeah, like you said, it's probably 95% of co-working spaces. I don't actually know the number, but it's not so many, there's not many WeWorks in the world. There's only a few of these bigger companies. Yeah, so we wanted to give power to the smaller spaces. We wanted to show that they exist, that they're important, that actually we support so many other small businesses also. So we are supporting freelancers, but we're also supporting small businesses and the development of new businesses.
Do you know Alex Hillman? And I know you know Alex Hillman, but do you know the 10,000 Independence Project in Philadelphia?
This one I don't know right now, no.
I thought you did. Sorry. I
Okay,
should have set that up a little bit better.
tell
Pardon me.
me more.
So about 2015, maybe, Amazon said, "Oh, we're thinking of opening a new office. We'll create 10,000 jobs." And Philadelphia mayor was like, "Oh my goodness, we're going to create 10,000 jobs." And Alex and all his India, and a lot, it wasn't just Alex, and as he would say to you, like a group of people said, "What is the point of doing all these tax breaks and attracting Amazon to Philadelphia? Because when someone else offers them a better deal, they'll disappear and you'll lose 10,000 jobs. And it's better to have, I can never do the maths out loud, but it's better to have like 5,000 independent companies employing two people than have one company employing 10,000 people and
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff."
yeah.
So there's this, and it's been going on for ages now, this kind of ongoing campaign for, pretty much what we're talking about here, like independent, small and micro businesses are the heartbeat of the economy, and it's better to recognize them. And I can see as a mayor, you'd be like, "Oh my god, if like one company comes and employs 10,000 people, that sorts things out for the next 5 years." But it doesn't really,
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, it
I-
doesn't, because then you're at the, I don't know, then you're in the grips of like this company, and they all of a sudden have too much power in that economy for whatever reason, whether it's this or that, and then if they push for tax breaks, that you're kind of like stuck, like with these threats of the big companies. I don't know. I mean, I've seen it here. I mean, Brandenburg, we have a gigafactory, and I know for the state where I'm at, it was kind of seen as a, I don't know, as a way to promote this area, but it comes with so many other parts to it, for sure. I don't know. It doesn't only benefit. I don't know. There's not only benefits when the big companies come, for sure.
exactly. So with the German Coworking Festival, something. How do you get people to take part in it? Because there's going to be people that will like go, "Oh, it's Tilo and Julianne, let's get into it." And but then there's, "Hello, I know you never heard of us, but you should take part in this." And I feel with things like International Co-working Day, co-working festivals, European Co-working Day, like the people, the general public probably don't care about it, but it's such a huge benefit to them. And if someone said, "Oh, come to co-working day," I'd be like, "Why am I doing that? How's it going to make me thrive and survive?" But it is an important part of like a co-work. We're kind of speaking to the converted here, but a co-working space is a massive connection point for the local community and the local economy. And how do you sort of pitch that to people?
Well, first I have to pitch it to the spaces, right? So you need to have like a lot of spaces on board so that you can sort of show like the sheer size of the scene. So first we made partnerships with some of the networks of co-working spaces in Germany, and we asked if they could support and like really try to get their spaces on board. So we had ambassadors for every state, and then it was kind of the role of those ambassadors to work on communicating. So we prepared like press work, and each ambassador should push it out to the local press in that state, and then actually each space should also press out to their local press contacts. So when we talk about the German co-working festival, like, you have the cities for sure, but then you have a lot of rural spaces that are coming up as well. And so we also wanted to show, and in the rural areas, I feel like I'm having the same conversations I had like 12 years ago in Berlin, or 14 years ago in Berlin, where it's like people don't know what co-working is, not any idea. They've never heard of WeWork even. So it's like we don't have that like tool to say, well, you've heard of WeWork. But so we have to talk about it like from the sort of ground up way. And at least from my own experience at Coconut, when we have the festival, what what I see, what it does is it gets people who are like thinking about coming for so long, and then they're like, yeah, okay, this is the time I'm going to come and try it out. And it's perfect. We always get a few members out of it. And then people are like, yeah, I kept meaning to come and see if, to try or like to work here. And then they do try and they come. So it's really great. And I, like, from the countryside perspective, like, it's really cool, the people who do come in, and then we all like sit together at lunch and talk about our different work, and everybody has super different work, and most people obviously are working remote. But then we also have like really fun professionals coming in, like foresters, measuring like how many trees are growing in the forest, and then do their computer work here. So it's, I don't know, it's fun. And then people just have like this extra reason to come in.
That when I moved from London to Vigo, which is in Galicia in Spain, there's millions of co-working spaces in London, and there's like 15 here, and they're all, even the big one is owned by a group of people, and it's been, what made me think of this is when you said it reminds me of back in the day, when there was only a few co-working spaces, because kind of everyone knows of each other. And the way, just, I mean, there's 8 million people in London, and there's like 300,000 people in the whole region here. So just the way people do things, the pay, like in the space I go to, people all sit down for lunch together, and it's you'd never do that. And people sit down for lunch together in London, but like the whole co-working space sitting down together to eat at the same time every day is amazing. And people have, there's not a forester there, but people have lots of different types of jobs, whereas often you'd be sitting around a table and everyone would be in some kind of tech or marketing thing.
Yeah.
If people were going to organize some kind of festival or in open day, like what are the last few things you could say you must do this?
Well, actually, we tried to make it pretty low bar. So like the only thing we really ask all the spaces to do is to offer like a trial day, which most people do anyway. So we were like, come on, just like, you don't have to do much. Like, you just have to promote an open co-working day, or maybe the whole week open co-working, which is what we do at Coconut. Yeah, so that's like the very low bar thing. And then obviously there can be more. So it always depends also on who's doing what. I'm the ambassador for Brandenburg, so I was doing more. So I also was getting in touch with our local economic development department, and we did a luncheon about workation. So we had different projects coming in to have lunch together, and we just did like a few. I think we did a world cafe about how we could develop more workation in the region, and what's missing, why should we do it, like had these different questions at the table. So you can do that, something like that, really professional development. Some people just do parties. I mean, there's one Tuesday co-working in Berlin. They usually do some kind of music event, or they also usually organize a soccer match, football. Sorry, I'm American. Um, yeah, so
I know what you meant.
you can kind of do whatever you want. And then what I also like to do under the umbrella of the co-working festival is, if a space is already running something, great, just put it in the program, and then we put it into the big event program. You don't have to do something extra special, but the idea is just to come together to make some noise. I don't know, have you ever read Horton Hears a Who?
No, but I'm gonna hang up and
Oh
get
my
right
gosh,
in
you
there.
haven't? So there's like a whole giant community of people living on a speck of dust, and nobody believes Horton that they exist till they all scream at the top of their lungs, like, we're here, we're here. And when the last smallest who joins the crowd and screaming, we're here, then everybody knows that they're there. So it's just like showing that, like, we might be small businesses, but we have a big impact. And when we put our voices together, we can show that to everybody.
I'm definitely linking to Horton in the show notes. That is exactly what people should do. I think people overthink these things, because I say people, like, I overthink these things. I always thought I needed to get like the Foo Fighters, and Annie Lennox to come and play at our co-working space to validate our existence. But it is as simple as like just adding something you already do to the calendar. Where is the best? We're going to put all these links in the show notes as always, but where's the best place to hunt you down online and connect with you and book a staycation? Workcation, sorry.
Well, you should go to coconut-space.com, and it's coconut like COCONAT, which of course stands for Community and Concentrated Work in Nature.
I never knew that.
No?
I just thought it was like I like coconuts.
Nope.
Wow.
It's got a bigger meaning. And then we thought it was cute. Anyway, so coconut-space.com, and then you can always come out to the German countryside, stay in a manor house, work with other remote workers, or you can come with your team as well. So we have a lot of like team meetups happening at our place as well.
Beautiful. Okay. Thank you for your time and attention today, Julianne. And ladies and gentlemen, make sure you go to the show notes. There are links to everything we talked about in this show, and especially to Thilo, the best looking man in co-working. There's also a link to the co-working LinkedIn group, which is nearly at 8,000 people. And a lot of what we talked about in here today is happening in that group. And we're really encouraging people to take part in that. We email thousands of people every week in our London Co-working Assembly and European Co-working Assembly. And so many of you people that I know open our emails and read them and click them are in that group, but never say anything. So we need to sort of bridge that gap. It's okay. It's a safe space. And there is the European Co-working Day, which we talked about in this podcast. And also, if you are around and could be in London in February, there is the Workspace Design Show, which will be running some co-working things out there. That's free to come to, so you just have to get a plane ticket to London and find somewhere to stay, and then we'll be having a big meetup there. So have a great day. Be careful out there. It is a jungle.
Thank you, Bernie.